And right now, to continue our coverage, we're going to bring in retired Deputy Assistant Director for the ATF, Peter Forcelli. Peter, thanks for joining us on Morning in America.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
So the FBI says they're investigating this as an assassination attempt, but also as a domestic terrorist attack. So how does that characterization of the domestic terror element all impact this investigation?
Well, obviously, terrorism is when you utilize violence to achieve a political means, and attempting to assassinate a political candidate is, would fall under domestic terrorism. It gives them some additional tools in the event that it turns out that the shooter was involved with other folks. But the reality is, from what I'm hearing, is it's most likely that he acted alone and he's now deceased. So it's really not going to amount to much, but it just gives them the opportunity to use different tools in their investigation.
Of course, it didn't happen fast enough to take out the gunman. But the gunman, Thomas Matthew Crooks, was on top of that rooftop about 150 yards away from former President Trump with a rifle. So what can you tell us about how law enforcement was able to eliminate him so quickly?
Well, this was a big failure on the part of the Secret Service to not secure that roof. Now, I've spoken to people who were close to the investigation who have told me that passersby noticed him climbing a ladder to get on top of that roof. So how that ladder was able to be erected there, how that building wasn't secured, is a big question that the Secret Service is going to have to answer. My understanding is a local officer climbed the ladder after hearing that the shooter went up there with a firearm, and that the shooter turned around and pointed the rifle at the officer's face. And I've heard conflicting stories that the officer either descended down the ladder or fell from the ladder. But what I believe happened is, at that point, the shooter realized that he had been observed. He realized that he didn't have much time, and he rushed those shots. So I think that, coupled with the fact that the former president turned his head, saved the president's life. Look, that is not a difficult shot to make with an AR-15 platform rifle. The other thing to keep in mind is those bullets, when they left the muzzle of that firearm, were traveling at about 3,000 feet per second. By the time you get 150 yards out there, about 2,800 feet per second, still far faster than the speed of sound. So Donald Trump did not hear those shots go off as they whizzed past his head. It's a miracle that he's alive. A child could have made that shot had they had the time to place those shots and not rush to fire the weapon. The other thing I'm hearing is that he actually had constructed an improvised explosive device made out of an ammo can that they found in his van, and he had similar device in his residence, which my understanding is they're still in the process of searching.
So what does that tell you about perhaps a wider plot that he may have had?
Well, it tells me that there was some planning. Look, it's not difficult to manufacture an improvised explosive device. You can find out how to do it. I hate to even suggest it, but on YouTube, there are videos. There's the Anarchist Cookbook, which has been out there for quite some time. But yeah, he manufactured a device out of ammonium nitrate and fuel oil, and with projectiles inside of an ammo can, which is not that different of a device that the Tsarnaev brothers utilized in the Boston Marathon bombing. So it tells me that he had some planning. This was something that he did for some time. Whether he did it with others, that's something that the FBI will work to determine. And that's why it's so critically important that they get into that phone to see who is he texting, what may have he put in the notes in that phone. So, I mean, again, this is still an unfolding investigation. But the big answer is that they're going to need is, how was that rooftop left unsecured? That is an epic failure. And then the other thing is, a lot of people don't realize, when police officers work with Secret Service or other federal agencies, very often they can't communicate with each other by radio because there's no interoperability with the radio systems because of encryption and other things. So if you're not standing next to someone from another agency who has a radio in hand, you might not be able to communicate with other members of that same agency. It's very complicated.
I don't mean to interrupt you, but haven't we been singing from the rooftops about this since 9/11? I thought that would have been fixed by now.
The government doesn't fix a lot of things. I spent 20 years in government. It's very dysfunctional in many ways, and this is a big way in which it is dysfunctional.
Wow. All right, Peter Forcelli, thank you so much. And we'll look forward to learning what the motive was. The FBI has not released that. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks for watching, everybody. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. Also, don't forget to click that red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.